A moment ago, the world was spinning just fine. There was nothing out of ordinary. And then in one split of a second, there was like a pandemonium. I was still, in World Trade Center when the first plane hit the South Tower. Just as I reached the door on Church Street, the main entrance to the World Trade Center, there was a security personnel that was just telling people to go inside, go back to your desks. And a lot of people were turning away. And I hesitated for a while. What should I do? Should I go back? Should I say? And in that moment, someone just tapped my shoulder and said, just go, just run away from here. And I just followed that and just dashed out of the door. I was just trying to see what had really happened. And as I was looking, just another plane came and just in front of my eyes, just rammed into the North Tower. And I saw probably some like birds were coming towards me, and in like within 10 seconds I realized it was not birds, it was actually people who had made a difficult choice to kind of end it willfully rather than staying in the asphyxiated to the smoke. That's an image that has not left me even today. I just dashed towards the East River, and as I was running towards it, the North Tower started collapsing. And so it was like a chase. This whole haze and cloud was just approaching, and I was just running. And there was a ferry that was pulling out from Pier 11, and I didn't have a ticket or anything. I just leapt and jumped on the boat. It was perhaps the last ferry that left the island that day, and I made it out. And within no time, the entire Manhattan skyline was covered with smoke and dust. No buildings were visible, and the North Tower had been razed to the ground. I was kind of numb initially. I didn't know how to react. Of course, there was a collective grief in the environment. Everybody was grieving. Everybody had their own version of 9/11, whether they were in the building, outside the building, watching it far from on the TV. In the days that followed, I went into a cocoon and I almost shut down, to the extent that for the longest period of time, I didn't even talk to my wife about it. On one side, I felt like I had to finish the unfinished business. I needed to get the promotions, everything that I was looking for in life. I needed to get it even faster. But on the other side, there was this distinct feeling of disinterest. It's like, what if something like this were to ever happen again, and I may not be so lucky, and what's the point of all this anyways? Underneath it, there was a void. There was an abyss that I was staring into, and I didn't know how to come out of it. I'd never experienced anything like that before. I thought maybe I should go and travel, go off the beaten tracks, just go and explore the world, and probably that'll fulfill it. I started taking trips to Amazon rainforest and to Patagonia, and I really thought, that would give me that thrill, But all of that was very short-lived. I would go there, enjoy some, and then come back to that same state of void. A couple of years into it, somebody suggested me this breathwork technique, sky breath. The very first time I experienced the sky breath, I vividly remember the calm that I had experienced in that moment. It uses your natural rhythms of breath. And using the rhythms of breath, it harmonizes all the different layers of our being. Your intuition improves, your focus improves, or the thoughts subside. And that was very precious to me at that time. I'd never experienced anything like that. And so I kept going back to that experience. But then the left brain skeptic that I was, I started questioning, how is it really working? Is there anything scientific behind it? So then I started digging into the research, and then the first thing that caught my eye was how this breath work stopped the flow of cortisol in the brain. The cortisol, the stress hormone or the grief hormone, which body releases when we experience some of these emotions, the research suggested that just within 2 weeks of practicing sky breath, it could bring it down by almost 56%. So that any life event that we go through leaves an impression on our nervous system, like a scuff marks, like lesions. And the deeper that impression gets, it results into patterns, and that creates the conditioning of the mind. It's similar to when after 9/11, if I heard a loud noise, it would take me back to that morning. Or if I experienced that burning smell, it would take me back into that moment of the towers coming down. Those were impressions in my nervous system. But what I experienced with Skybreath is slowly but surely it scrubbed the nervous system of these impressions, giving the mind more opportunity to be present and not just getting flung between the past and the future. And so on one side I had my irrefutable experiences, and then the other side I had now this scientific proof. So with both these in my hands, I was feeling like Peter Parker who had just discovered the biological webbing superpowers. And so I kept going with it. All right.
So I have some mushrooms. Let's do mushrooms.
You're the chef, so you tell me what you want. So my wife and I, we told ourselves that we do something that creates an impact. It's not just about chasing the bottom line. And so we created our chocolate company, something that we were very passionate about. We both worked on Wall Street for almost 15 years, and we were like, all right, we really needed to do something that was more meaningful, something that gave us a strong sense of purpose and also aligned our passion with it. Today we joke about it that between two of us we have 7 degrees, but none of them has anything to do with culinary. While working on Wall Street, our focus was always on making some rich people become even richer. Where now our focus is on how do we connect with that farmer in Ecuador and get his produce converted from farm to bar without any middlemen, with a lot of heart in the supply chain, and eventually using that proceeds to help some children get education for the first time in their generation.
You're taking so long, Kushal.
No, almost done.
It's also getting late. Like you're gonna hit traffic. So.
Oh yeah. Should I just leave that?
No, can you please finish?
Okay. Almost done.
Okay, it's okay. You go.
Okay. So then you take care of it.
Okay.
Bye.
And don't forget we have a call.
Yes.
Bye. Okay.
I'll see you.
Okay. Bye. That's how he really says bye.
In the recent experience, the pandemic, it was very similar to the September 11, 20 years ago. People felt isolated and people experienced losses. I personally experienced the most profound loss in my life. I lost my father to COVID. When I lost my father, it was very difficult. I had never experienced that kind of loss before. And all those memories, all those familiar walls started narrowing down on me. But this time what I noticed was different was those emotions didn't have as much of a negative charge on them. They were still there, the memories were still there, but I was able to move through it differently. I was able to respond to it differently. So there's no escaping it, but I guess it's okay to be not okay. And probably that's a first step to move in the right direction. From that space of acceptance, I think a lot more doors open up for one to deal with it in a more constructive way. Everyone's grief is unique, and there is no timetable or barometer to measure it, or measure the progress of how far you've come in your process of coping to come out of it. I was fortunate enough to have stumbled upon this breathwork that helped me to a great extent. Knowingly or unknowingly, it pushed me out of it. It's a big deal personally to me that I'm able to sit here with you and share my story with you. Myself from 20 years ago would have completely shut down and not talked about it, avoided humanity completely, whereas now I'm able to talk about it, share what I've learned with others in form of the breathwork that I teach, and how it has changed the old emotions that I was carrying about, the anger, the hatred, the grief, and change it to compassion, gratitude, and being able to show up for others.